What's going on, boys? Welcome back to the stream as a part of our essentially daily stream. I know my schedule has been a little bit inconsistent, to say the least, as of late, where I would be streaming on a day that I'm supposed to, then the next day I'm not streaming. So I do apologize for that, but I'm going to look to get back on track here. Yesterday, I just didn't really want to stream for honestly obvious reasons, but yeah, going forward from here, we'll get back to a normal schedule and. And we'll go from there. So yeah, it has been a little bit ever since we talked last. There have been a couple of changes, a couple of new things that came out. The real big news that I wanted to talk about here was Ilia Topuria was talking about. Somebody was asking Topuria about who his next opponent was. Was it going to be Gaethje? Was it going to be Armin? Was it going to be Patty? And he actually said if everything goes along as planned, it's actually going to be neither one of those guys, which was interesting. So if you look at the rankings, if it's not one of those guys, obviously forever I've been talking about on this channel, on these live streams, that I thought Topuria's next fight was going to be up against Armin, Gaethje, or Patty. But if it's not one of those three guys, then I don't know. Who's it going to be? Is it going to be Islam? Is he gonna fight Islam next at 170? I don't know. But outside of that, honestly, I can't think of anybody else that it could possibly be. But we'll see. MB, what's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. Canelo Crawford's press conference live. Oh, it's live. What is it on Netflix? Or not Netflix, YouTube? Let's see. Oh, yes, it is. All right. Oh, we have Max Kellerman doing this. That's interesting. All right. Should we do a reaction to this? I guess why not? All right. We'll do a little transition into Canelo Crawford. Rick Allen, brother. Welcome to the stream. Who marked Mooch? That was a really sad situation. That's actually a part of the reason I didn't stream yesterday. To be honest, if I had to say, I think they know who it is. They're just looking for him. Like they know who the person is. They know his name and everything. They're just looking for him. If I had to guess, obviously I have no information, but if I had to say, I would assume they have a good idea of who it is. They're just trying to track him down. Which is, yeah, it's pretty sad, but what can you do? But all right, let's get into the Canelo Crawford. I'll do a little bit of a watch along here and see if we find anything interesting in live stream. Let's go to UFC. Ilia versus Armin. Oh, you're saying that could be the next one? Well, didn't he say that it wasn't Ilia? It wasn't, or sorry, obviously it wasn't Ilia. Didn't he say it wasn't Armin, it wasn't Patty, and it wasn't Gaethje, or did he say something else? Or did I hear it wrong? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who it's gonna be. That was a yeah. It was really sad, to be honest. I wasn't super thrilled. Obviously, we don't get super political on this channel, but I wasn't super thrilled based on the reaction of some people to that whole event. It was just sad. There's nothing really more you could say about that, honestly. Just sad. But all right, yeah, I got the live stream, the press conference pulled up in the background for Canelo Crawford. If anything interesting comes out of it, I'll let you boys know. As I talk about a lot on these streams, I'm a little bit of a casual when it comes to boxing, so I don't really know a lot of these guys. I just know the two men in the main event. But if there's anything interesting, I'll let you boys know. Okay, let's go, brother. Welcome to the stream. Let's go. Congratulations, brother. Welcome to the stream. But yeah, we just have some of these boys walking out for the little presser. But yeah, so for MMA wise, as I was saying, that was the big news. Topuria has a mystery opponent. We'll see who it turns out to be. But that's definitely interesting if it's not going to be one of the guys. Obviously, we talked about before, there's some rumors that it's going to be Armin Tsarukyan versus Dan Hooker fighting for the UFC Qatar card. So it kind of feels like, if Topuria is going to fight relatively soon, it's not going to be up against Armin Tsarukyan. For Gaethje and Patty, they still don't have fights coming up. So I guess there's still hope for them, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Lopez winning my prediction. We'll see. Obviously, I'm on the other side. I'm honestly pretty confident about it. But we'll see what happens. Lopez is obviously a really good fighter. His jiu-jitsu is good. If Lopez can find a takedown, which normally he doesn't look to shoot takedowns, but theoretically, if he dropped Lopez or Silva, I should say, or found a takedown in some way or something like that, I do think it would be trouble for Silva on the ground. But assuming this fight's going to be held on the feet, which I think it probably will, I don't really think that Lopez has too many advantages on the feet, to be honest. But we'll see what happens. Obviously, um, I would drop Topuria and Makachev too. Let's go, bro. I can see it. I can see it. Two boys in one night or both at the same time. I can see it though. You doing a watch along for Noche card? I am gonna do a watch along for the card. Yeah, the card sucks. I mean, we've talked about it a couple of times. The card's absolutely awful. But I will be doing a watch along for it. Maybe just make it a little bit more exciting, watching it with you boys and whatever. But obviously, the main event, regardless of how bad UFC Noche is in general, the main event is so good that I'm still excited for that fight specifically. The rest of the main card is still obviously not good for Noche, but at the very least, some of these fights like could possibly be fun. So I think for some of these fights on the night of the fight, it's going to turn out to be like, oh, that's actually a pretty fun fight, and maybe just make the card that much more exciting, hopefully. But obviously, as most people have said, and I also agree with, going into the card, I don't think that it's going to be that great, but I hope I'm wrong. Hopefully, we'll get some really fun fights on the card. We shall see, boys. Ilia Goat, yeah, he's close. Honestly, he's pretty close. I'm also a bit of a Topuria glazer, but honestly, with like 2 more wins, he can get there. I know that may sound ridiculous, but a win over Arman Tsarukyan, let's say, and a win over Islam Makhachev for the belt at 170, and I think he's probably the GOAT, which might sound kind of crazy. I know it's not that many fights, but he's not that far off. I mean, obviously, beating Makhachev as well as Arman Tsarukyan is a big if, but theoretically, if he could do that, I don't think he's that far off of, becoming a potential GOAT. But obviously, at this point, there's, some things that he still has to do. So we'll see. Defeats Arman Sasbad, then it doesn't run away. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if he legitimately does that. It's difficult to say that he's not the GOAT, to be honest. First 3 division champion at that point would have beat some of the best, also would have knocked out some of the best. Volkanovski, Max Holloway, Charles Oliveira, then Arman Tsarukyan, and then Islam Makhachev. That'd be insane. It would be insane. Little run for him. I've seen enough Topuria to Patty. Honestly, like, this is how I see it. So for the potential opponents, I mean, with this report, it may be somebody else. We'll see. But from the information that we've always got, it always seemed like it was going to be Tsarukyan, Gaethje, or Paddy Pimblett. So this is how I saw it. For Arman Tsarukyan, I thought he deserved it by far the most out of the other 2 options. And that's a fight that I probably would have wanted to see most, just because it's the biggest test for Topuria. Even though I thought Topuria would beat Arman, still, I always thought that Arman would be the biggest test for him, and he deserved it. Then you have Justin Gaethje, which I didn't think deserved it at all, and I honestly didn't think made any sense. But it was the easiest fight for Topuria. And then you have Paddy Pimblett. The reason why the Paddy Pimblett fight, he doesn't deserve it, but the reason why it kind of makes sense in a way is because, Paddy versus Topuria would be a huge fight. Both guys are big stars. Both guys don't like each other, and obviously they faced off after Topuria's last win against Charles. So, like, there is some intrigue for both Arman as well as Paddy. For Gaethje, I don't really think as much, but that's kind of how I thought about it, how I felt about it, the potential matchups. But we'll see. We'll see who Topuria's next fight is. Also, there was a rumor. I talked about this a couple times on stream, but hopefully it's not accurate. But there was a rumor that that Topuria is not going to fight until the spring of next year, which would really, really suck if that's true. But with some of the rumors of Topuria, talking about his potential next opponent coming up, soon, it feels like he probably is going to fight before the spring, which is my hope. So Ilia has an opponent. I don't know. I don't necessarily think it's a guarantee that he has his next opponent, but I think they're working on something. It's not signed yet. It's not official yet. But what it sounds like from what he was saying is he knows his opponent. But I don't know. We'll see. I think it might be Patty. Yeah, I mean, I gotta pull up the clip again because honestly, I don't remember. But from what I remember watching that clip, he was saying that it wasn't Patty, it wasn't Gaethje, it wasn't Arman. from what I remember from the clip. Um, but we'll see. Because he posted on his YouTube channel that he's back in camp. Okay, yeah. So I guess I guess we're closer than he was leading on. I guess at that point, which would be really cool. I would really like to see him fight. All right, I gotta go. Let's go, bro. Nice meeting you too. Thanks for joining the stream. I appreciate it. But yeah, if he is in camp, then he's a lot closer to a fight than I guess we already know at this point. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna try to find that clip I saw of Topuria. Let's see if I can find it. The problem is I don't remember where I saw it on. Maybe it was championship rounds. Let's see. Let's see. I also saw something about Dana White talking about that this doesn't change that much honestly, but he was talking about how UFC fighters for the 4th of July card are going to walk out of the Oval Office, which is kind of cool. But like it's kind of like whatever, but it's kind of cool. Windows are covered. Yep, no John Jones today. Covered them up for the first time. Yeah, it's going to be more often. It's getting darker earlier now. It used to be when I was streaming, it would still be light outside, but now as it just gets darker earlier, which is unfortunate, but reality. I'll be covering the windows from now on. No more John Jones outside. Dan also says Connor could possibly be on the July 4th card. All right, all right. I'm trying to find the video. Have you always seen that video of Topuria saying? I'm pretty sure that's what he said. That he doesn't want to fight, or not that he doesn't want to fight, but his next fight is not going to be up against any of the guys we thought it may be. Okay, never mind. So, okay, I was actually wrong about this. Ilia Topuria reveals that he's in negotiation for his next fight, but doesn't have a confirmed date or opponent. Okay, so I was actually wrong about that. So I guess it could be Patty. If the rumors are true about Arman Tsarukyan though fighting in UFC Qatar, it's obviously probably not going to be him. So that would only leave two guys. It's either going to be Patty or Gaethje. I hope it's Patty out of those two options. But yeah, we shall see. We shall see who they decide to go with. But yeah, I really hope we get some sort of announcement soon. I've been talking at a lot of these live streams, kind of thinking about who could potentially be. Could it be this guy? Could it be that guy? Is Topuria going to fight soon or whatever? But the more answers that we get, and whenever we get this fight announcement, the more clarity we're going to get for the rest of the division. Because I've talked about this also a lot, but I feel like a lot of guys at lightweight are kind of just waiting out at this point. When you talk about Arman Tsarukyan, who may have a fight, but he's been waiting out for a little bit. Or if you talk about Dan Hooker, who also may have a fight, but he's been waiting out for a bit. Justin Gaethje, Paddy Pimblett. There's just so many guys at lightweight, legitimate contenders, that are kind of just waiting out at this point. So if Topuria officially has his fight booked and scheduled and announced, then I think we're going to see a lot more movement at the weight class, which will be a good thing for the sport overall. So that would be pretty good. Pantoja versus Van, UFC 323. Yeah, I agree with you. I always thought it was going to be is that the card in December, I'm assuming? Yeah, I always thought they were going to be fighting in December. But yeah, I think it's probably very likely. I thought it was either going to be the December card or the November card. I was hoping for the November card selfishly because I'm going to try to go to Caleb Walsh or whatever, that boxer the UFC promotes, is fighting on Canelo Crawford. Anyways, but selfishly, I was hoping that Pantoja versus Van would be on the New York card because obviously, as I said, I'll probably be there. But because it's not, it's announced already that card, the top 3 fights, so it's not going to be on that card. It's most likely going to be on the card in December. JDM is so cool and nonchalant. Yeah, I agree. I agree. He's a pretty cool fighter. He's a really good fighter as well. I don't think people are giving him the credit or respect that he probably deserves, considering how good he is. But are they not there? Are Canelo and Crawford not at the press conference? Or am I tripping? I think they're not there. That's really weird. It's a Canelo Crawford press conference. They're not even there. But I like JDM, I guess. JDM more humble than Bummer. Yeah. Brett, what's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. What's your bank account look like? Not amazing. I'll put it that way. Not amazing. Trying to figure it out. This whole YouTube stuff and whatnot. Um, at least after Noche, we'll see if Reyes following. Yeah, I just put a video together about that fight specifically. Hopefully, Reyes finds the victory here. Um, I do kind of believe that Carlos Ulberg is a bit of a fraud, to be honest. So hopefully, our boy Dominic Reyes finds a finish and finds it early. But we'll see what happens. I am excited about that card. I think it's pretty good. The main event's really good. The rest of the card is fine, but they are going back to Perth, and Perth is always a really fun card. Or not just necessarily a really fun card, but just a really good crowd is what I meant to say. So yeah, I'm excited about that card, but the card after that, really, once we get to October, that's really the time that I'm personally really excited about in October. The first week of October, first weekend of October, we have UFC 320, which appears to be a really good card. I would say the main event is really good. The week after that, Charles Oliveira versus Fiziev. The rest of the card also looks really good. Then we have RDR versus Fluffy Hernandez, arguably the best fight of the month, which is crazy considering there are a lot of good fights on that month, and also it's a fight night. But that main event of that fight night is amazing. And then we round out the month with UFC 321 with Tom Aspinall gone, some other good fights on the card. So, yeah, probably September is not the best month in the world in terms of cards, as the France card was really good last week. But for this week, we kind of have a shitty card, to be honest. Next week, we have no card. And the last week of September, we have a fight night, not a pay-per-view. So it's probably not amazing, but October is going to be good. So that's a good consolation prize, I guess. None of my business. I would love to see. Yep, me too. I've talked about this a lot. He's honestly like very close to it. If he's able to find a finish, and honestly just a victory in general, but especially a finish over Carlos Ulberg, he should get a title shot in his next fight. Now, it doesn't mean he's going to literally be next to fight for the title. We'll see how the rest of the weight class plays out. But one thing that I will say is his next fight is most likely going to be for the belt, which is crazy to think about considering after the John Jones fight, where most people thought he won the fight, he got knocked out 3 times in a row in the first round, I believe, or just got knocked out 3 times in a row. I don't remember what rounds, but that happened, and a lot of people kind of wrote him off, said he was washed, he had to retire. And seeing him rack off all these wins, 3 wins in a row at this point, we'll see what he does against Ulberg. It'll be really nice to see him get back to the top and potentially fight for the belt again. And who knows, maybe he could win the belt. We'll see. He's a solid dude. Yeah, he definitely is, which kind of makes it better to see his comeback here. It is just like a really good feel-good story, to be honest. So hopefully he's able to do well. I think we're all kind of pulling for Dominic Reyes in that one, but we'll see. Mikey, what's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. Welcome back. Yeah, we're talking about specifically Dominic Reyes, but we're kind of just talking about September as a whole. Probably not the best month in the world for UFC fans in terms of the cards, but there's definitely some good fights and okay cards sprinkled in there. This weekend, as I said, the card's not going to be that good, but I'm personally still really excited for Silva and Lopez. I know some people probably disagree with, but I know the other fighting nerds have also lost. But for me personally, Gene Silva is against Diego Lopez. Picking Gene is one of the more confident picks that I've had in a while. So we'll see. I could be absolutely wrong. I've been absolutely wrong before. I was super, super confident in Steve Erceg against KKF, and he got flatlined quickly. So who knows? I mean, it's MMA. It's a very unpredictable sport. But at this point, I'm definitely very confident in Jean Silva. But we'll see what happens in that one. But the rest of the card, as I said, it's really not good. But there's a couple fights that could be fun on the night of the fight. Like Alexander Hernandez versus Diego Ferreira. I think that could be fun, honestly. Stillflutes versus Kelvin Gastelum. That probably should be fun. David Martinez versus Rob Fabrant. I think that could be fun as well. Probably will be to a certain extent. And then Todorovic versus Jose Medina. Like both of those guys I don't think are really good, especially for Medina. I really don't think he's good, but I think that fight could be kind of fun. There's a couple other examples. Zachary Reis versus Cedric Dumas. I mean, they both kind of suck, but it'll probably be a fun fight. And there's more examples of that on the card. So hopefully we get some finishes, hopefully find some fun fights, and we'll see what happens on the night of. Do you live in the Catskills? No, I don't. I live in New York, Long Island specifically. Um, I really hope the project was next month. The winner this week can determine a lot of the future. Yep, 100%. Yeah. It is kind of funny. I think we all kind of agree that Carlos Ulberg is a bit of a fraud. He just really doesn't do that much. I also thought he definitely lost against Jan Blachowicz. It's really unfortunate for Jan specifically, just because he's super old, and I thought he beat Carlos Ulberg. And if they gave the nod to Jan Blachowicz, he could be in the spot where he would be one fight away from a title shot. But because they kind of took it away from him, now Carlos Ulberg has it. But regardless of that robbery, that fight specifically, I just never thought Carlos Ulberg was that great. He doesn't have great power or anything like that. He's kind of just a sparring kind of fighter, I feel, where he's just, he utilizes that inside leg kick a lot. He utilizes a lot of jabs, occasional right hands, but for the most part, not too much devastation, kind of just sparring matches, as I said. So I'm also not really all that high in Carlos Ulberg. But I guess he's gotten wins and he's gotten to the point where he's at. But yeah, it definitely will determine a lot, the winner of that fight for sure. But we'll see. Yeah, jab leg kick. That's really what he does. He's kind of ironically, he's a more boring version of what Izzy was when people were complaining about Izzy. Because when Izzy was getting a bunch of title defenses in a boring fashion, he was jabbing and leg kicking, which is kind of what Ulberg is doing. But I actually feel like Ulberg is doing it in a more boring fashion than what Izzy was doing. Because at least with Izzy, he would kind of hurt guys. Like, it was definitely boring, but he would kind of hurt guys a little bit. But with Ulberg, he's just really not doing that. The only time he's found a finish recently that I can remember is when what's his face ran at him and he got knocked out in like 10 seconds. I forgot his name, but yeah. Wayward champion, I think he'd be the Nog. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think you're Khalil. Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. I think Sagan has a chance. Honestly, I don't. I really don't. I'll tell you why. The reason why I don't feel like he has much of a chance is how Sandhagen can have success here is strike on the feet, but specifically strike at range, where he can land head kicks, and maybe utilize his boxing a little bit. But what Marab's going to do here is he's going to pressure a lot. He's going to shoot for a lot of takedowns. And I know Corey does have pretty good takedown defense. And in the Umar fight, he did a good job at, reversing position, getting back to his feet. And he'll do a much better job at stopping takedowns and getting back to his feet as compared to what Sean O'Malley did. But the difference between Sean O'Malley and Corey Sandhagen is Sean O'Malley had some good power. And there was a possibility, although very unlikely, there was a possibility that he can land one big right hand and knock out Marab. But for Corey Sandhagen, I don't think that's really a possibility. He just has no power at all in the sense, to be quite honest. And besides that, like, head kicks, as I said, are just not going to be available because Marab's going to be in his face and just not give him the space. I think this fight could look very similarly to Peter Yan versus Marab, where Marab just essentially never let Peter Yan get going because he was in his face the entire fight, constantly shooting takedown after takedown. And it's not that Peter Yan like gassed out super badly and he's getting dominated or whatever. It really wasn't. He was stopping a lot of the takedowns, getting back up once he did get taken down. But ultimately, he lost the fight because he was constantly on the defense and he was just never able to get going. And I think we could see a very similar thing in this fight for Corey Sandhagen. But we'll see. As I see that you already said this in the comments, which I agree with. Literally, the only possible way I think Corey Sandhagen can win this fight is with a flying knee. If he lands a flying knee clean on the jaw of Marab, then okay, yeah, he can find a knockout like that. But any other way, on the ground, finding a submission off his back, super, super unlikely. A reversing position, getting on top and finding a finish from there, even more unlikely. Landing a big shot on the feet, landing a big uppercut, knocking Marab out like that, also super unlikely, just because Corey doesn't have a lot of power. So literally for Corey, the only way I could possibly see him winning is with a flying knee. But outside of that, I don't really see it. I do. I think he's more impactful version of Sean versus Izzy. Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. I don't think he will, but if to be moved to like that, so like yeah, I mean, listen, he definitely does have a really good mentality. I know in his fight against Cheeto, he tore his bicep, I believe. He tore something, and he still won the fight. He has a really good mentality. It's just, in terms of the skill and in terms of just like the abilities that he has, he's a really good fighter. He's done a good job at making improvements. He's a much better grappler at this point than he was before in his career. I just think it's stylistically, it's just a very difficult fight for him. But we'll see. I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm very confident Merab just pressures, finds takedowns, and finds a victory that way. Also, I can trust things up to give a chance, but 90% chance of losing this to go. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think, as I said, I think this fight could look very, very similar to Peter Yan versus Merab. Because what Merab does really well is pressure, shoot a million takedowns, force you to be on the defense. That's how he's been able to get all his victories. But honestly, a lot of guys have been gassing out significantly, and then rounds 4, round 5, even round 3 sometimes. That's really where Merab pulls away. But in this fight, I don't really think Corey's going to be like super gassed. I'm sure he'll be gassed to an extent, just because Merab's pressure is like next level. There's nothing like it. I know Fluffy has amazing pressure, but there's nothing like Merab's pressure. It's at another level. So I'm sure Corey will be tired to an extent, but I don't think he's going to be completely gassed out, even in round 5. I think he's going to still be competing. And I think that comparison between Peter Yan versus Merab and Corey versus Merab, I think it's going to be a very similar fight, to be honest. He has a boxing glove tattoo and no power. Yeah, that is true. That is true. He literally hits like a woman. I mean, if I'm gonna be honest, like he literally has no power. It's insane. He has really good striking, obviously, but he just has no power at all. It's unfortunate. He's a really good fighter. Obviously, as I said, he's done a really good job in making improvements to his game, in terms of his striking, but also more importantly in terms of his grappling. But yeah, it's just something that's difficult to overcome. You can't just instantly get power out of nowhere. This is a big reason why I talk about physicality being so important. Guys that have a ton of power just have a natural advantage over their opponents. And a guy like Corey Sandhagen, he's not just going to get power out of nowhere unless he gets on the juice. And even then, who knows? But he's not going to be he's not going to be a Francis Ngannou or anywhere near that with any sort of training or anything like that. So it's just a disadvantage for Corey, but it is what it is. So it kind of sucks. Oh, Mikey, thanks so much, man. I really appreciate that. I appreciate that, man. Thanks so much for the donation. Obviously, as I said, I'm just talking to you boys about MMA, and I really appreciate you guys just for being here. But thanks so much, man. I really do appreciate that. It does mean a lot. Buy yourself something nice, and that's special. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. That's really nice of you. That's really cool. He's already rich. I'm definitely not. But I appreciate it so much. Topuria mystery opponent will be Justin Gaethje for. By the way, welcome to the stream, brother. For UFC 325 in February, I'm predicting it. So look out for Dana to announce it. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see who it turns out to be. We'll see. I know he was talking about how he has a date, and he has a date. Or sorry, he knows he's in fight camp, but he doesn't have a date. He doesn't have an opponent. So who knows? It's probably not going to be Arman. I will say that if it's any sort of time soon, because Arman is going to fight for what's it called? He's probably going to fight in Qatar, is based on the rumors that I've been hearing. But yeah, so it's either going to be Patty or Gaethje. So we'll see. At least that's what it seems like at this point. I'm very confident in Lopez. We'll see. Honestly, I'm on the complete opposite side of that. I'm very confident in Silva. I was kind of talking about it before. The confidence that I feel for Silva is higher than I felt in a while. And obviously I could be wrong, but we'll see. I am kind of confident in Silva. It's kind of funny that we're on the opposite sides here. Fuck, I was in my money on a rich guy, give it back. I hope Lopez wins, but I guess always win. Yeah. My bad. I don't. I'm definitely not rich. I'll just put it that way. But yeah, I know a lot of people are rooting for Lopez here. I'm also a Diego Lopez fan. Obviously, when he was coming up, I was also a really big fan of Diego Lopez, and I still am a big fan of his. I just feel like because of the physicality is kind of similar between both of these guys, and the technical striking ability of Jean Silva, in my opinion at least, is like significantly better than Diego Lopez. Based on that, I feel like Silva is going to find the victory. That's the reason. Because for Diego Lopez, he's a great fighter, but when you look at a lot of times he won, A lot of times, what he was able to do effectively was pressure his opponents, utilize his physicality, put punches together in combinations, and land one big shot, whether it's an uppercut, whether it's a right hand, whatever, drop his opponents and finish him from there. But with Jean Silva, I think he's going to do a much better job at A, eating the shots because he has shown a good chin, but also B, he can match the physicality, match the power of Diego Lopez. And also, as I said, he's more technical than Diego is. So I think he can, utilize footwork, move over to the side on a blitz of Diego Lopez and land a big counter right or something like that. But we'll see. We'll see. Let's see what else we got next here. It won't be Hooker. It's not Hooker. Sorry, it won't be Arman because he's fighting Hooker in November. Yep, I agree. It's most likely not going to be Arman or Hooker. So yeah, I agree with you on that one. Plus, Gene Silva's ultra technical. Yep, that's kind of what I was saying before. What's it? Plus, you could just. Yeah, I mean, listen, I do think Diego is probably going to make some improvements from the fight when he fought Volkanovski. Obviously, he was fighting a very technical fighter in Volkanovski, arguably the most technical fighter in Volkanovski. So I don't want to rule it out that Lopez can't make adjustments or can't get better. I think he will actually get better. I just think the gap in technical ability between Silva and Lopez is pretty significant, whereas in terms of speed, in terms of physicality, in terms of chins, and in terms of power, most importantly, I think all those factors are honestly very similar. So we shall see. I usually don't follow boxing, but I'm going to tune in to Alvarez versus Crawford. Yeah, me too. I will as well. I will be doing a watch along. Everybody for that's in here that know, I will be doing a watch along for UFC Noche. I know the card kind of sucks, but I will be doing a watch along for it, and we could watch Lopez versus Silva together. And I was thinking about potentially extending that into another watch along for Canelo Crawford, but I haven't made my mind up on that yet. Obviously, this is an MMA channel, not really a boxing channel. But regardless, if I stream it or if I just watch it, I will be tuning in for sure. Too many people are writing off Lopez just like they were BSD. Well, for me personally, I was not writing off BSD. I thought BSD would win the fight. So we'll see. We'll see. What's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. Did you think that Imavov was going to gas out? I did. I was definitely wrong in the Imavov fight. I thought it was pretty clearly 4-1, maybe even 5-0. It was a really good performance from Imavov. But going into the fight, a big reason why I thought Imavov could gas out and kind of what I thought could have happened in the fight is I thought Kaya would do a better job at pressuring. But if you watch the fight back, he was on the back foot the entire time, essentially on the defense the entire time. The couple of occasions where he was on the front foot and he was starting to throw a couple of power shots back Imavov's way, Kaya did have some success. But for the most part, he was on the defense. He was on the back foot. And I think that's a big reason for why he didn't gas out. I mean, it's very difficult to gas out if you're dictating the fight and if you're on the front foot the entire time. So, yeah, that's kind of how it played out. Even though it was probably 5-0 or 4-1, I still don't think Kaya was like terrible. I still think he's really good, and I still think it was relatively competitive. It was just like a very clear decision victory for Imavov. So great performance from him. He'll definitely get Khamzat Chimaev next. Definitely deserves it. And we'll see what happens in that fight. I would assume Khamzat will find a first or second round finish, but we'll see. Brett, thanks so much, man. I appreciate that so much. Thanks for the dono. I'll try not to spend it all in one place. I appreciate it, boys. Thanks, Mikey. Thanks, Brett. I really appreciate the donations. And thanks for everybody else just for being here. Truth, but Lopez is also a lot better than Rafi. Yeah, he is. 100%. I always said this forever, but between the fighting nerds, even before all three of them lost, the other three lost, I always said this was always my rankings. If you go back at my live streams, you can see this. Number one, the best fighting nerd was always Jean Silva. Number two, I thought was Caio. Number three, I thought was Prates. And number four, I thought was Rufi. That was always my list of my top four fighting nerds. But more importantly, I always thought that what's his face? Silva was the best out of all of them. And I've said this for a while. It might sound ridiculous, but I feel like he's inevitable. I just put out a video on it. I feel like he's going to be a champion. I really do. If he beats Diego, that means he'll probably beat Volk. Yeah, I do agree with that. I think obviously, as I said, I think Jean does beat Lopez, and I think if he beats him, he'll probably be a champion. I think there's a chance, and kind of what I'm hoping for. I hope Volkanovski just retires after his next fight. Which is probably going to be against Lerone Murphy, win or loss. So we'll see who Silva fights next if he beats Di- Diego Lopez. But regardless, honestly, whoever it is, I think he's gonna win. I think he's gonna win, to be honest. Damn, Brett White got out to me. Damn, unbelievable. It's between Gaethje and Patty to be Topuria's next opponent. Yep, I completely agree with that. I completely agree. What's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. Yeah, who do you think, Khalil or Yuri Prohaska? I'm kind of leaning with. This is probably not a popular take either. I'm kind of leaning with Yuri Prohaska at this point. Or sorry, I'm kind of leaning with Khalil Roundtree at this point. It is a really close fight. I really feel like the fight is going to be determined on who lands first. Both of them are really powerful, obviously, but I just feel like because Khalil is definitely more technical than Yuri, and because he's shown a pretty good ability to handle a very dangerous striker in Jamal Hill. I mean, obviously, Yuri is significantly better than Jamal Hill and way more dangerous, but still, Khalil did a good job at fighting 5 rounds in a relatively safe way in that fight, and even in other fights. I'm slightly leaning with Khalil, but would I be shocked if Yuri lands a big right hand and knocks him out in the first round? No, I wouldn't. It's a really close fight. They should do UFC 324 Houston, Texas. Main event should be Topuria Gaethje. Co-main event should be Holloway versus Pimlet, 5 rounds. If Holloway's healthy enough by then, yeah, that'd be a great card. Why not? I'm not against that sort of card. That'd be fun. Yeah, what would that be in February? I'm assuming, or would that be in January? Either January or February, whatever it is. But yeah, I'm not against that. I think that would be a really fun card. Why not? What's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. Why Kaio so passive? I don't know. I mean, I guess one thing that I will say about myself, something that I kind of failed to predict was Kaio honestly usually is on the back foot for the majority of the fight. He kind of works his way into the fight as the fight does progress, and that's where he was able to have success against Jared Cannonier, and why he was basically able to find a finish at the very end, even though they didn't call it. We all know it should have been called. But in this fight against Imavov, really, Imavov was on the offense the whole time, and Kaio just never really inserted himself into the fight. As I said before, there were certain occasions where Kaio would press forward a little bit, maybe throw a big left hand or a big right hand. His jab left hand specifically was used a couple of times by Kaio. It's his best combination, and it kind of got him, on the front foot a little bit more and got him back into the fight in certain rounds. But yeah, for the most part, Kaio doesn't push forward that much, I guess, for one. And for two, credit definitely does need to go to Imavov. Imavov was on the front foot the whole time, and he made it difficult for Kaio to insert himself into the fight, to be completely honest. So that's kind of why. But as I said, I still think Kaio's good. I'm not writing him off. He's a legitimate contender for sure. And I still think he's going to be a good fighter. Which Holloway early 2026 because he suffered an injury. Which Holloway should be back in the ring? You mean, do I think is he going to be like the same Max Holloway as he always was? Yeah, well, the answer to that would be yes. I think Holloway would be fine in that sense. But if you're asking like when he should fight, probably like the first half of January or first half of 2026, January, February, March. Probably one of those 3 months he should fight. And who should he fight? Honestly, between now and then, there's a long time, so that'll be determined on who wins and who loses, I guess. I do as well. Must be nice, baby. Let's go. GLN, what's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. Topuria is better than Islam. I would agree. I think we'll see if they fight. I really hope we do get that fight in the near future. But I think it is determined on which weight class they fight at. If they fight at 155, I favor Topuria. I just flat out favor Topuria over Islam at 155. At 170, it's a much more difficult fight for Topuria. But still, I think it's like close to a 50-50 at 170. But overall, in terms of the skill, in terms of how Topuria is doing things, yeah, I mean, he has a better resume than Islam. If we're going to be honest, he beat like insanely good names. I know Islam also beat Volkanovski, but when you look at what Topuria is doing, he's literally knocking everybody out, not just beating them. And he knocked out, not only beat, but knocked out Volkanovski, Max Holloway, and Charles Oliveira back to back to back. That's an insane resume, not to mention the other performances that he's had. So I know I'm a Topuria glazer, whatever, but he's legitimately really, really good. And he's probably the number 1 pound for pound guy in the UFC right now. Technically, who is it? Ilia? Oh, it is. Okay. So actually, according to the pound for pound rankings, Ilia Topuria is number 1, which I think is accurate. Featherweight Leon will not get headshot at the end of go. Yeah, yeah. I think Volkanovski will be fine. I said this a lot for Volkanovski at this point. I think what he's really going to struggle with is guys that are technical enough, but also are super physical, like a guy like Jean Silva, like a fighter like that has a lot of power, but is also technical. That's the type of fighter that's going to give Volkanovski trouble. But for Lerone Murphy, he's not like he hits harder than people give him credit for. I will say that, but he doesn't hit that hard. He's not that dangerous for the most part. And in fights like that, when it comes down to technical ability, I don't favor too many guys over Volkanovski, even at this accelerated age. I think he's more technical than Lerone Murphy, although Lerone is a great fighter and very technical. I definitely do favor Volkanovski in that fight versus Lerone, but we'll see. Topuria beats Islam for sure. Yeah. I think so. As I said, I think it's determined based on the weight class. But would I be shocked if he beat him at 170? No, I wouldn't. But at 155, I think he definitely beats him, to be honest. As crazy as that may sound, I think that's probably true. I believe Volk will be the main event. Joshua Van. Yeah, I agree. I think that's probably going to be what they decide to do. Volkanovski for the December card. Volkanovski versus Lerone Murphy main event. Van versus Pantoja co-main event. I think it's kind of lining up for that. So I agree with you. Topuria isn't beating Islam. Sorry. We'll see. As I said, I think at 155, I think he does. At 170, it's obviously a tougher fight. Islam is going to be way more filled out at that weight class, but still, I think there's a chance. Poirier badly lost to Islam. Topuria is much better than Poirier. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, the Poirier fight. I know I know you're saying it's close, and a lot of people thought it was close. Personally, watching it live, I never watched it back after I watched it live. So maybe I would have a different opinion if I watched it back. But watching it live, I honestly didn't think it was that close. Yes, Poirier was doing a good job at kind of making Islam work a lot, and he was landing some good shots. I believe he landed a big elbow that cut open Islam. He did have a lot of success. But in the end, even if it went to the scorecards, I think Islam would have won that fight. But listen, whenever we're giving credit to Ilia, I'm not against that. So, yeah. I feel like Islam would get chinned. I haven't done a deep dive against anything. I can't explain it. Yeah. I mean, obviously, Islam has been finished before. So we'll see how his chin is, especially at 170. We'll see how filled out he is, and probably his chin would be even better at that weight class. But listen, this is what I think about Islam. Islam's a very good fighter, and he's been really dominant for as as much as you want to criticize Islam and me, including me. I've definitely criticized him in the past as well. But listen, he's really dominant. He's finished the fights, most of his performances that he's been in. On the feet, he's definitely a good striker. I wouldn't say he's underrated anymore because everybody always says, oh, Islam's underrated on the feet. At this point, I think he's rated fairly. He's a good striker. He definitely is. He could have success against a lot of good strikers, and he's proven that. But the best aspect of his game is his jiu-jitsu on the ground. I should say like his top pressure, I guess, because from there he's able to do a good job at landing elbows. He can find submissions. He can find finishes. But in terms of the striking, it's good, not amazing. In terms of his initial takedown shot, it's very good, I guess I'll say. But I don't know. There's definitely a lot to like about Islam, if we're being honest. But Topuria does kind of feel like he's kind of on another level in terms of at least his striking. Dense and powerful, plus Islam is kind of chinny. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, yeah, there was that one occasion where he got knocked out cold, but obviously we haven't seen that after that. So we'll see. I would love to see the fight. I really would love to see the fight, Islam versus Ilia. And if that does happen, I'd be very interested to see how Islam's able to take the shots. If Ilia is able to land clean on him, which I think eventually he would. But who knows? Chubby and Chinny. Let's go. Man, I had Holloway's out for the rest of the year. Yeah, it sucks. But honestly, a lot of 155 is kind of on hold at this point. I feel like everybody's just waiting to see who what's his face? Who Topuria fights next, and then we're gonna get a lot more movement at 155. But yeah, we'll see. I think Khabib beats Islam. I do as well. I think Khabib is better. In terms of resumes, it's actually kind of difficult. Islam's resume is amazing, but in terms of like pure fighters, I think Khabib is probably a little bit better. He's definitely more dominant in like within the fights. But Islam has fought way higher level competition though. Or not way higher, but definitely higher. Because I heard before Holloway got injured, they were looking to book him in MSG against Holloway. Yeah, I heard that as well. Obviously, honestly, Charles might have fought in Brazil anyway, even if Max wasn't hurt, because it was very clear that Charles really wanted to fight in Brazil, and that's a big reason for why he came back so quickly. But I don't know. So who knows? But if theoretically we would have got Holloway versus Charles Oliveira at MSG, that would have been a really good fight. I kind of think Charles probably would lose, probably would get knocked out in that sort of fight. So from that sense, I'm kind of happy that they didn't put that fight together. But maybe in the future they put it together. Um, do you think Oliveira Holloway would have been a boring fight, or would have been? No, it would have been really good. Fight of the year, probably not. Even though it has the chance to be an amazing fight, I just think it's so difficult to top what we saw from Van and Royval. Like that's the clear fight of the year, in my opinion. I don't think anything even comes that close to it. There's been amazing fights this year, obviously, but I think I think Van versus Royval is just so like ridiculously good that it's just going to be difficult for any fight to be on that sort of level. So theoretically, if they put together Holloway versus Oliveira, it probably would have been an amazing fight. It almost definitely would not have been boring. Neither one of those guys have ever been in boring fights, so it would have been really fun. But fight of the year, probably not, if I had to say. Haven't they fought already back in the day? Yeah, they have. They have. Holloway had a chin until he didn't. Yeah, listen, I think Holloway's chin is still good. Is it as good as it once was, where he literally had a like insane level chin, arguably the best chin in the UFC? No, it's not at that level anymore. But I still think his chin is fine. Obviously, he made some adjustments to be a little bit more defensively sound, and I think overall Holloway's a better fighter now than he was in the past. But you know, I still think his chin is really good. What's up, Joshua? What's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. San Antonio, ready for Saturday? Let's go. Let's go. Hopefully the card turns out to be pretty good for you. Hopefully it does. As I said, I think the main card, there could be some fun fights. The main event should be really fun, regardless of who wins. So hopefully it turns out to be a pretty good event. As I said, we will be doing a live watch along for it. I know Joshua wouldn't be able to join, but just enjoy the fights. It should be good. Going to UFC fights in general are always amazing. So I'm sure it'll be a fun night overall. Have a good night, Juice. All right. Thanks, brother. Thanks so much for the dono. Thanks so much for being here. I appreciate it. And yeah, good night, brother. I'll see you whenever I see you, I guess. But yeah, definitely some good stuff, boys. Definitely some good stuff coming up in the whole MMA world. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for the fights. And as I said, October specifically is going to be absolutely amazing. Probably like there might be better examples of a month having better cards overall, but at least like something that I could think of off the top of my head, I don't remember a month having that many good cards in it and having cards of the level that October has in this year. You talk about UFC 320, Pereira versus Magomed, Merab versus Corey, Yuri versus Khalil Roundtree, Josh Emmett versus Yusuf Zalal, Abus versus Joe Pyfer. Like, honestly, that main event or that main card is really good. Then you have Oliveira versus Fiziev, which is an amazing fight. The rest of the card is also great with Figueiredo and Montel Jackson. That's honestly a really good fight. And there's other good ones sprinkled into that card as well. Then the week after that, you have RDR Fluffy Hernandez, which is just an absolutely insanely good main event, legitimate number one contender sort of fight. And you have other fun fights sprinkled in that, on that card as well. And then the week after that, you have Tom Aspinall versus Real Gone, which I've talked about that. I've talked about it on this channel a lot. I'm not super excited for that fight specifically, just because I feel like Tom Aspinall is going to beat Gone. But at the end of the day, when they start walking out, when the fight is happening, I am going to be excited for it. And especially if we see any sort of surprises, if Gone is able to extend the fight a little bit longer, if he is able to stop takedowns, who knows? It's always good to see Tom Aspinall fight. He's always an exciting fighter, and to see him back, and especially to see him as finally the undisputed the undisputed heavyweight champion is always a good thing for the sport as well. Brennan Allen versus Kaya Bahia both agreed to fight each other at UFC 320. I did see that. Sometimes when guys agree to fight each other, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen. Obviously, the UFC also has to approve of that, but But yeah, I did see that they were talking about that. I would honestly, why not? I would like to see it happen. I would like to see Kyle Bahalio be a little bit more active than what he has been. I mean, he hasn't fought in a year before his fight against Imavov. So the more active Kyle Bahalio can be, the better it's going to be. And in terms of rankings, Kyle is number 8 in the rankings at this point. Brennan Allen's number 11. I think that makes sense as well. And why not? Just put it together. What are your favorite MMA channels? For MMA channels, usually what I like to watch is honestly not too many. I watch ITP Live sometimes. He makes good content, for sure. I also watch The Weasel, but I'm very selective about when I watch The Weasel. So I'll watch The Weasel directly after a fight. So after Hamzat versus Strickus fought, like a big fight like that of that caliber, I'll usually watch The Weasel. Just because he puts out his breakdown and kind of gives his opinions on it, and I always love to hear people's opinions on particular fights. Whether I was personally right or wrong doesn't really matter. So I like to watch The Weasel for post fight analysis. Is honestly some of his other content I don't normally watch, but for his post fight breakdowns, whatever, I'll watch that. And obviously, as I said, ITP Live. I'll occasionally watch MMA Guru, not that much, but I'll occasionally watch a couple live streams or just a couple of videos that I find interesting. But yeah, outside of that, that's really it, unless I'm forgetting about somebody. But for the most part, that's honestly really it. I wish Dana then would just leave the UFC and becoming boxer pro. Doesn't seem to care about the UFC anymore. Yeah. I don't know. I do agree with you that there definitely is some sort of a level of not caring, at least to the same level it was as what it was in the past. But at the end of the day, he's the face of the UFC and whatever. I mean, whether or not he specifically cares about the UFC as much anymore, there's definitely guys behind the scene that are continuing to make a good product. So I guess whatever. But I do agree with you. His passion's not the same. I hope Aspinall knee holds up. Yeah, me too. I mean, he's obviously fought a couple times ever since that knee injury, and it's fine. Of course, anything could happen. But if I had to say at this point, I mean, I think probably he would be fine. It's been a lot of time. Obviously, it's fully healed at this point, you would think. And as I said, he's fought multiple times and he's grappled multiple times after that. So hopefully he'll be fine. But we'll see. Yeah, honestly, especially in that fight, but in any one of these fights, you never want to see like a freak injury like that. That always sucks. When we see some sort of injury like that, just a freak injury that stops the fight early, it always sucks. So hopefully in that fight specifically and just fights in general, we don't really see those sort of things happen. But yeah, shall see though. We shall see. But what fights are you boys most excited about, or what cards even are you boys most excited about? Definitely, as I said before, a lot of really good ones coming up not too long from now. It should be good, honestly, as I said. By the way, I was going to do a little bit of a watch along for the Canelo Crawford what the hell is it called? Canelo Crawford press conference. But sorry. But I was going to do a little bit of a watch along for the Canelo Crawford press conference, but I saw that they weren't even there, which is kind of weird. They weren't there to their own press conference, so I don't know if any of you boys know anything on that, but I thought that was kind of weird. But what are you gonna do? Also, there is a BKFC event this weekend, I guess. I saw that Yoel Romero is weighing in for his BKFC debut, so I guess there's a card tomorrow, I think. That's insane, though. It's honestly insane. The amount of juice that he's on is honestly insane. Talking about Yoel Romero, as old as he is, and to look the way he does, I can't overstate it enough. It's insane. Pencil Shavings, what's going on, brother? Welcome back to the stream. I'm late. How long are you streaming? For around like almost an hour. I'll definitely go probably like another hour, another 45 minutes. So I'll continue to stream a bit longer for show. But yeah, boys, definitely just excited about some of the things we have coming up and some of the events we have coming up. But Yeah, does anyone know anything about this BKFC card? Is it a good card? And I believe it's for tomorrow. Let's see. BKFC. Let's see the full card. Is Yoel Romero the main event? Um, no, he's not. Do we have a full card here? View event. It's September 12th tomorrow, 7 p.m. All right. So you're gonna work with me here? This website fucking sucks, boys. Imagine if UL was natural. Yeah, it's insane. It really is insane. I mean, how does he? I mean, obviously he's on juice, but it's just insane. Like considering that, what is he like 48 or something ridiculous, and he looks the way he does. It really is insane. But yeah, if he was natural, I mean, he probably wouldn't be fighting anymore, or at the very least, he wouldn't be as successful as he's been. He wouldn't be as fast as he is. He wouldn't be as powerful as he is, and he wouldn't be as successful as he's been at this point. I mean, listen. Yoel Romero is an amazing fighter, obviously, but Father Time always catches up to you. So most guys, by the time they're 48, would have slowed down, and obviously Yoel Romero has slowed down to an extent, but still, he still looks like much better than a normal 48 year old would. But we'll see. We'll see. I still like Yoel though. Hopefully he does well in his BKFC debut. But we'll see. What your card of the year for the UFC? As I was kind of talking about before, there's a lot of really good cards, but if I had to pick at this point, I know we don't even have that many fights announced yet for that card, but I'd probably have to say UFC 322 with JDM and Islam and Shevchenko, Wei Li, and Leon versus Carlos Prates. I know those are the only 3 fights we have announced for that card, but I think because everybody, including myself, really wants to see Islam versus Ilia, I think people are kind of forgetting how good this fight legitimately is in a vacuum. Like in a vacuum, JDM versus Islam is a super fight. It's a legitimately amazing fight. And obviously, as I said, because of the potential rumors or the potential of Ilia versus Islam, I think people are forgetting how good JDM versus Islam is. So in my opinion, that's probably the card of the year, the card that I'm most excited about. We'll see how the December card looks. Maybe it could even be better than the November card, depending on who's on it. But at this current moment, that's the card that I'm most excited about. Obviously, there's still other really good cards. UFC 320 is great with Pereira and Magomed, and the rest of the card's good. UFC 321 is also really good with Cyril Gane and Tom Aspinall. The rest of the card has interesting fights. But UFC 322 is that's the card that I'm personally marking down of a card that I personally like the most. But yeah, there's a lot of good ones, and it doesn't just extend to only pay-per-views. There's also a lot of fight nights that are really good. In terms of fight nights, had a brain fart there. In terms of fight nights that I think are going to be the best coming up, you have Charles Oliveira versus Fiziev. I think that's going to be an absolutely amazing fight night. RDR versus Fluffy, also absolutely amazing fight night. And even Carlos Holberg versus Dominic Reyes is pretty good as well. So it's pretty good. I think Paris so far. Oh, you're talking about previous cards. Okay, never mind. Okay, I read that wrong. So yeah, for previous cards, I don't hate the UFC Paris card. I know it was a fight night, not a pay-per-view, but I thought the card could be good. There was a lot of fights that I'm like, all right, this is probably going to be a good fight, but it turned out to be even better than I expected. UFC Paris was amazing. It had all but 2 finishes on the whole card, and the only decisions were Gomes and Imavov in the main event. And if you look at Imavov in the main event, that fight was actually like not like the most exciting fight in the world, but it was like pretty entertaining, relatively entertaining. So that card is absolutely amazing, and obviously the rest of the card was literally all finishes. So that card was amazing. Outside of that, off the top of my head, I mean, obviously it's difficult to say at this point, just off the top of my head, but I can't think of anything that's better than UFC Paris. I know there's probably some higher caliber names on some of the pay-per-view cards in the past this year, but in terms of what UFC Paris held, in terms of like the name value, there were some really good names in the card, but also more importantly, in terms of how the fights played out themselves, I do think it's very difficult to find a card that's better than UFC Paris. So yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you on that one for cards that already happened. But as I said, cards going forward for the rest of the year, what do I think is going to be the best? I think it's probably going to be the New York card, or that's at least the card that I'm most excited about. Um, I think Imavov is weak in the clinch. I never see him. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I've notoriously been kind of low on Imavov, and he's been really successful. So I'm kind of tweaking my views a little bit on Imavov. I still don't think he's going to be a champion. I still don't think he's going to beat Hamzat. And yeah, his clinch issues could potentially be an issue in that Hamzat fight. But to be honest, I think he just gets taken down and submitted by Hamzat. But the real reason why I'm not super high on Imavov is I think there is a path to beating this guy out there. For Hamzat, it's a little different. He just takes him down and submits him or finishes him on the ground. But for a lot of other guys, I think Sean Strickland kind of showed you how to beat this guy, where it's not that easy, but there is a blueprint out there where if you just pressure this guy, throw out a lot of volume, you can start to gas him out. And as the fight does progress, you can start to take over the fight. So although Imavov is really fast, lightning fast, he's very good on the feet, I do think there is, a blueprint out there on how to beat him. And for sure, Kaya wasn't maybe the best stylistic fight to implement that sort of pressure style, but I do think there definitely are some other guys at the weight class that can do that. So we'll see. We shall see. Shitloads of countless troubles. I just got knocked down. Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, obviously, I'm picking Charles Oliveira to win the fight, but I also don't love that he's coming back so quickly after getting knocked out. But as I said countless times on these live streams, and what I will say on my video whenever I put that out, my prediction video between Charles and Fiziev, yes, it's not great that Charles is coming back so quickly after getting knocked out. But at the same time, if you look at Fiziev specifically as a fighter, he's never been known as a guy that has like a ridiculous amount of power. Yeah, if he lands a spinning wheel kick on Charles, he'll probably knock him out, if we're being honest. But in close, in terms of his boxing, he's got great boxing, but he doesn't have like amazing power or anything like that. So because of the lack of power, and because honestly, I really feel like Fiziev is a 145er. He's a little bit of a tweener. He obviously has a lot of muscle. He's very muscle bound, and a cut to 145 probably would be difficult. But at the same time, I just don't think he's big enough for 155. And I think because of that, and because of the lack of power, I think Charles is going to be fine in this specific fight, and I am picking Charles to win it. But yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people are talking about Charles coming back too quickly, which I agree with. But as I said, stylistically, I think it's fine. Dubronx should beat Fiziev. I agree with you. I do agree. I think he'll be all right in this one. I think Charles beats, but it's too soon. Yeah, I agree. I mean, two things could be true at the same time. Stylistically, it's a good fight for Charles, but at the same time, he is coming back too soon. So I agree with both points on that. I mean, he just got knocked out in July, not that long ago, and he got knocked out bad. The worst he's ever got knocked out in his career. He's making a quick turnaround and fighting next month. So yeah, I definitely don't love that he's fighting so quickly. People are making it seem like Oliveira is fighting Holloway or something. Yeah, I mean, I think it's listen. Fiziev's a good fighter. He is a good fighter. I've talked about how I think he should move down to 145, but regardless, he's a good fighter. He does good things out there. He's very fast. He's lightning fast. His kicks are great. His boxing is also pretty solid, and his takedown defense is amazing. So he does things well out there. I just think when you're talking about on the higher level against Charles Oliveira or even against some other guys, I just think those guys are a little bit better than Fiziev at this point. Doesn't Fiziev have heavy hands? Not necessarily. I mean, listen, he's knocked out guys in the past, landing a big right hand, big right hooks for sure. But he hasn't knocked out, like he's fought higher level competition for sure. And he's really hasn't had the same level of power against those guys. The guys that he was able to knock out were kind of lower level competition and guys that weren't known for having a chin. But as the competition increased, we really haven't seen it against that higher level competition. So listen, as I said, his kicks are heavy. If he lands a head kick on Charles Oliveira, he's going out, especially considering he made such a quick turnaround. But I just don't think Charles is really going to fight this fight at range. I think he's going to press inside, force his way into the clinch, land knees and elbows, land front kicks to the body, maybe try to find a finish in the first round. But if not, as the fight does progress, I think Fiziev is going to start to gas out, as he's shown in multiple fights. And I think as the fight progresses, Charles just starts to pull away. And if Charles loses to Fiziev, he should just call it a career. I agree with that. That I agree with. Yeah. I wouldn't hate that decision at all. Is BSD that good or is Roofy that bad? I think I'm kind of on the minority again at this point. I feel like a lot of my takes are not the common belief, but I think BSD, and I've said this even after he lost to Moicano and after he lost to Dustin Poirier, I think BSD is going to be a champion. I really do. I know he had two bad losses. I mean, the Poirier fight kind of was like there's a caveat to that because he had staff, he was kind of going all out, and he was doing really well until he wasn't. He kind of just gassed himself out and got knocked out for it. But in the Moicano fight, there's not really much of an excuse there. He just got dominated by Moicano, who's not seen to be the highest fighter or the highest level at lightweight. But regardless of all that, I think when you talk about BSD, his physicality and his grappling is why I think he's going to become a champion, or at the bare minimum, be a legitimate contender. I really think he's that good. His striking is okay. I mean, obviously he does kind of run into some shots, which is a little bit concerning. But even in his last fight versus Rufi, he didn't run into shots. He did a much better job at avoiding that. So I think he's going to be champion. I just think he's that good. For Rufi, I know a lot of guys were saying, oh, he got fraud checked, he sucks, whatever. I don't think that. I think Rufi's still going to be fine. I think he's still going to be good. Is he going to become a champion? No, I don't think so, unless he makes some significant changes. But for the most part, I don't think so. But this loss for Rufi, I don't think means like, oh, he just sucks. I think it kind of just shows how good BSD was. If Charles does beat Viziev, yeah, I think if Charles beats Viziev, the obvious next fight would be Holloway, especially considering Holloway's not going to be fighting until next year anyway. So I think the timelines probably line up. I mean, we'll see how quickly Charles wants to get back in there after fighting Viziev, depending on how much damage he takes and depending how he feels or whatever. But we'll see. We'll see, obviously, how the fight plays out, and that will determine a lot. But assuming he doesn't take much damage, I think, yeah, the timelines probably could match up between the two guys. A lot of people are saying BST should fight Chandler next. I did see that. I would like to see that. It would be a fun fight, but in my opinion, I would also like to see BST kind of be challenged a little bit more. I think he just beats Chandler. Chandler at this point is just not that good, for being honest. He's washed at this point, and I think BST is really good. So I think BST probably finds takedowns, lands big elbows from up top, maybe even finds a submission. I just think he dominates Chandler. And yeah, it could be a fun fight for sure. But in my opinion, I would personally like to see BST fight some higher level competition and, maybe push him a little bit further. Max would have done Charles dirty. I think so as well. Yeah, I think he would knock him out. He would have knocked him out, which kind of sucks. I love Charles, but I agree. He probably would. I don't see BSG becoming champion with Armin in the division. We'll see. I mean, I get your point. Armin is probably the best wrestler in the division. Probably right. But listen, BSD is an elite grappler. I feel like, I'm not saying you specifically, but I'm just saying people in general don't really realize how good of a grappler BSD is. And in terms of his wrestling, is his wrestling absolutely amazing? It's not. But one thing that is amazing is his jiu-jitsu, his positioning, his ability to flip, to reverse position, I should say, in part based on his physicality. How many times have we seen him get taken down and he immediately flips position, throws his opponent off him, gets right back up? That could be a real factor in that fight versus Arman Tsarukyan. Who knows? But listen, if he's champion, or at the very least, if he's just a legitimate contender, I think BSD gets there. One or the other. And obviously, as I said, I do think that there's a real chance he could be a champion. I actually put a video out about this a while ago. If it does turn out to be true, that would honestly kind of be insane. But I put out a video a while ago. Let me just try to find the video. I'll point this out for you boys. Let me share screen window. We'll do that. Let's do this. All right, let's see if I can find it, boys. I put out a video. It was like really a while ago. Did I pass it? Where is it? Yeah, here. 7 months ago, BSD will become a UFC champion. So if that somehow happens, I would honestly be crazy. But yeah, I've had this take for a while, and this 7 months ago, this was after he lost to Moicano and after he lost to Dustin Poirier, obviously. So I've always been a very high on BSD, and we'll see. We'll see if I'm right. What's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. BSD versus Dariush would be a great matchup. I agree. I definitely agree with that. Dariush is a great fighter. I think people discredit him for being, unathletic and kind of getting knocked out by Armin and getting knocked out by Charles. But when he goes up against guys that aren't that athletic, he does have a lot of success. And pure skill wise, he's one of the more skilled fighters at the weight class. So it would be interesting. I think BSD wins, but it definitely would be an interesting matchup. I disagree considering BSD didn't take any damage last fight against it. Maybe do a quick turnaround and maybe fight Gamrot. You disagree? What did I even say? I didn't say that BSD shouldn't make a quick turnaround. I was just saying that what's it called? That like it would be a fun fight between him and Chandler, but I would prefer probably somebody else if I had to say. But yeah, if he fights Gamrot, I know he called out Gamrot. Why not put that fight together? Gamrot is currently number 8 in the rankings. BSD is number 13, so why not put the fight together? I don't mind it. I think Ilia will retire early, and then I could see that. I've talked about this a lot. For Ilia, kind of how he sees his career going from here is, I think he fights Armin or whoever he fights next. It doesn't really matter. I think he wins, probably finds a knockout. Then he moves up to 170. And if he fights Islam or if he fights JDM and he beats either one of those guys, I think he retires. At that point, he'll become a 3-division champion. And at that point, what's it called? His legacy will kind of be cemented. How many more wins and how much more could he really do for his resume at that point? And because of that, I think he'll probably retire early. Now, does that mean he'll get into boxing? I know he's talked about boxing a little bit. Maybe he'll decide to do that, or maybe he'll just decide to retire from combat sports in general. But I do agree with you. I think he'll retire early. And if I had to say the next guy after Ilia, probably I would agree with you. Also, probably would be Armin. But it would be very interesting to me to see Armin versus BSD. That's one that I think will be interesting. BSD versus Gamrot, UFC 323. Yeah, why not? I would like to see it. Why not? I know BSD was calling out Gamrot. I also thought I saw something that Gamrot accepted his offer. So I don't know. We'll see. BSD versus Dariush next. Yeah, I don't mind either. Either one of those matchups I think makes sense. No, Armin not the best wrestler in the division. He said it himself. He got good ground and pound. So, who would you say is the best in the division then? If it's not Armin, I mean, Islam, I don't consider to be in the division anymore, so I'm not counting Islam. But if it's not Armin, I don't know. In my opinion, I think it's got to be Armin. I don't know who else would be the better wrestler than him in the weight class, unless you think Ilia is better than him. But I don't. I love Ilia, but I don't think he's a better wrestler than Armin. So considering Islam's not in the weight class, I think it's Armin. And he does have really good ground and pound. He does. Do you think BSD Dariush would be interesting? Yeah, I do. It would be interesting to me personally because I would like to see BSD move his way up the rankings. So it would be for me. But in terms of the fight itself, yeah, it probably would be. I mean, listen, I really haven't seen a boring BSD fight, so I have no reason to believe that anyone that BSD fights would be a boring fight. So, yeah, I believe Dariush would be better on the feet than BSD. I think it would be close. But I think the real differentiating factor there would be physicality. Dariush is not that physical. His chin's really not good, to say the least, and his power is solid, but BSD is really physical. He has good power, really good power, actually, and his chin's amazing. We've seen it multiple times. So I think on the feet it's close in terms of skill, but the physicality, I think, would differentiate it a little bit. And on the ground, I think it would just be – I think it's also kind of pretty even, honestly, on the ground. And I think on the ground it would just be some really fun scrambles and just – a fun fight. So overall, to answer your earlier question, I actually think it would be pretty good. Pretty good fight overall between the two. But we'll see what the UFC decides to do next for BSD. It is kind of crazy though. I was talking about this before the fight started, between BSD and Rufi. But I was saying for BSD, this is obviously a huge fight. If BSD was able to beat Rufi, all of a sudden he'll be right back into legitimate contention at 155. But if he lost to Rufi, I don't think he would have gotten cut at that point. But he would be at a point where people would never believe in BSD ever again. They'll write him off and they'll say he's not going to be good, which at that point, honestly, may have been true if he lost against Rufi. But at this point, getting that win was honestly so huge for BSD, and obviously, I'm talking about it, and some other people are as well. A lot of people do consider him to be a legitimate contender at this point. So it's crazy. It's crazy how important these fights are, and how much one fight could change for you. So yeah, huge win for BSD. I can't overstate that enough. It was definitely a really big win for him. Um, but my bad, boys. But yeah, what do you boys think of this weekend's card specifically? Are you guys gonna even watch this card? I know a lot of people were complaining about it, and we'll be doing our watch along. So if you guys are interested in that, tune in to the Juicy MMA live streams on Saturday. We'll be doing it, um, but I'm curious, are you guys gonna watch the card or not? Also, are you guys gonna watch Canelo Crawford? I definitely will be watching one way or the other. But yeah, I think a big reason for why the card this weekend is not good is because of Canelo Crawford happening on the same day. The UFC kind of just doesn't want to compete with themselves because obviously Dana has a pretty big role in Canelo Crawford. So yeah. Oh, wait, let me see something. Is Canelo Crawford? Wait, what? Wait, so the Canelo Crawford thing is going on again? Wait, let me see this chat. Let me go through these ads first. My bad, chat. I was trying to do a watch along before. Yeah, there you go. That's so weird, bro. What the hell is this? I guess it was the prelims. That's really weird how they did it. But I was gonna do a watch along before for Canelo Crawford press conference, but they weren't there. So I guess that was just for the prelims. But now they are there. So obviously I'm a bit of a casual when it comes to boxing. So um, yeah, full disclosure, but I will be watching it on the side, and if anything interesting comes out of it, I'll let you boys know. But yeah, Crawford just walked out. Now they have Canelo coming out. It's kind of funny. This really feels like a UFC press conference. They have the same voice for it. Obviously, Dana White is heading the press conference. Um, Slight differences, I guess, but for the most part, this is very similar to a UFC press conference. Okay, but don't you boys also have an opinion on Canelo Crawford on who you boys think is going to win it? I think most guys are leaning with Canelo at this point just because he's bigger. But yeah, I don't know. What do you boys think? Everyone dip out in chat. Um, Also, one other thing that I wanted to point out and mention, I don't know, maybe it's just like not good videos, I guess, but one thing that I did want to point out is for some of my YouTube videos lately, they haven't been doing nearly as well as some of the other ones. So I don't know if YouTube is pushing them out as much, or maybe it's just not good videos. I got to improve. So I don't know. I'll see. But I'm just curious. Anybody in chat, have you been seeing my videos pop up in your recommended or whatever? Just out of curiosity. I'm just sorry if I'm not talking that much. I'm just tuning into the press conference. Let's see what they say here. It is cool that it's on Netflix. They can't hear the guy asking the question. They're asking Terrence Crawford how he feels going into this fight, a huge fight. Crawford says he's feeling great. Canelo also says he feels great. It's kind of that UFC thing where they just ask like the same questions. How do you feel going into the fight? What do you think of this of your opponent saying this? It's just like always the same questions. It's kind of funny, but whatever. Um, what are you gonna do, chat? What are you gonna do? Turkey Al Sheik looks really bored. The press conference, but yeah, whatever. Whatever. Let's see. Do we got any updates or anything on X? I don't think there's any other news or anything. All right, all right. Let's see. Let's see. A couple new fight announcements. Nathaniel Wood versus Jose Delgado for your UFC 321. That's another addition to that card for the end of October. That's the Tom Aspinall versus Cyril Gane card. So, yeah, I mean, not like insane fight or anything like that, but pretty solid fight added to that card. Definitely will be interesting to watch. So, that's a good one. Um, what else? What else? In terms of fight news, I think that's probably it. Also, I saw that yeah, I was watching the Contender Series. I don't know if any of you boys in chat right now are watching with us, but on Tuesday we're watching the Contender Series, and we were we were just watching along to the fights. It turned out to be a really good card, and a lot of guys and girls got signed to the UFC after that card. So I'm interested to see how some of those boys and girls look in the UFC. So definitely interesting. We found a guy at the main event was a heavyweight fight, and the fighter that won, honestly, I'm forgetting his name, but the fighter that won looked to be pretty good. It was a really short fight. It was kind of just a brawl, and one guy got knocked out. But it looked to be pretty interesting, and his personality was definitely interesting. So, as I always say, the more talent we can add to the heavyweight division, the better. And we did add heavyweight talent to the heavyweight division. Um, so it's always a good thing. We'll see how good he can be. Look like he's pretty athletic and whatever. But what are you gonna do, Chad? Um, but yeah, boys. I hate to cut this off early, but obviously, just not a lot of people in here right now. So if you guys have any questions, let me know in chat. I'll be sure to answer all your questions. Um, but if not, yeah, I think I may just hop off at this point and come back on live tomorrow. One shout out that I do want to mention. I hate to do this, but one shout out that I do want to mention is not right now, but once I start to get more members on my channel, that could be next week, that could be the week after that. I'm going to start to make changes, and I'm going to start to make Friday live streams for members only. That's just one thing that I just wanted to shout out. So if you guys are interested in joining live streams on Fridays, just be known, have that be known. But of course, if not, no obligation or anything like that. I appreciate you boys just for being here, being subscribed, doing these live streams, sending messages, watching my videos, and whatever, just interacting with me and the rest of the juicy MMA community as we are growing as a community, obviously. But yeah, I just wanted to shout that out. But anyways, boys, if not, I think I'm just gonna hop out at this point. I appreciate everybody for being here. Thanks so much for the no-nos, and thanks so much for the comments, everybody. But anyways, I'll see you boys tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern. I'll see you boys tomorrow. Peace out, boys.